This is Real Dad Society. I'm Reiner Bester and welcome to episode 2. My guest today is Nico Smit, one of South Africa's best online marketers and founder of Big Domino Marketing. He's also a dad of 3 kids. Nico, thank you for being here and welcome to the Real Dad Society podcast.
Oh, thanks, Reiner. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Let's jump into it straight away. Tell us and my audience a little bit more about yourself and your career and what is happening in your world right now.
Currently, well, like you said, we run a digital marketing agency in South Africa. It's quite a new type of industry here. We've been doing it for a while. I've been doing it for about 5 years. The business is about 2.5 years old where we've actually started growing the business. So it's just growing. It's lots of fun. Other than that, a little bit of my history. I come from a corporate background. I studied a long time ago. I'm an old man by now with certain standards. And then I got into finance was my background. Then I got into distribution and into retail. I spent about 5-6 years of my life in retail. Because of like family commitments and things like that, I decided, well, it's time to make a change in my life, walk away from retail and then spend more time with the kids. And the only way I could find to do that was to, walk away from corporate and just do something by myself. And I just ended up with digital marketing.
Okay, awesome. That's great. When you left the corporate world, did you find that decision easy? Was it something that you, how did you come by that?
Yeah, a decision like that's never easy. If you think about it, you're net earning a good salary, you're working in the corporate life. Yes, it takes a lot of your time, but there is some sort of security in that. So that decision was not lightly done. So for about 2.5 years, I lived on 22-hour days. That was it. During the day, you would be in the corporate life, and at night you would come home and you try and build your business on the side. And then, one day, then a door will just open, and then you make that leap. But even that, it's quite daunting sometimes when you think about it. If you've got to make the decision, but everything happens for a reason.
Definitely. And awesome. And how old are your kids now, Nico?
My oldest one, my daughter's 12, and then I've got a middle boy. He's turning 8 now in a month or so, and then our youngest one is 3.5 years old.
Okay, awesome. And just a quick question is something that I normally ask all of my friends and stuff like that. Why do you think dads struggle these days to ask other dads for parenting advice? Typically in the stuff that they are struggling with in their fatherhood journey, if I can say it like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I think it might be a cultural thing for us, or the way as us men, you've got to know. You grow up thinking that your dad knows everything. It's sort of something, I guess, it gets pushed onto us as parents or as dads, or as boys when we're younger. We're growing up in a certain environment. Dad takes all the responsibility. You grow up, you feel you've got to do the same. And how can you be the one that doesn't have the answer? That's sort of the one side. And I guess also pride. I think overall, humanity doesn't like to ask questions. And us men, we even more, from our side, we just feel we need to know all the answers, which obviously we don't. And I think from that side, we might feel like, maybe we're not a great parent if we have to ask someone else for advice. But obviously, as we go through life, we know that without asking other people for advice, we're really going to struggle.
It's a good answer. And then you told me offline that you are divorced and you're co-parenting with your ex-wife. What are the main struggles that you guys are currently and in the past experienced?
Yeah, divorce is a difficult thing for any couple. It's a very emotional thing, and you go through a period, and it's going to happen to everybody. You go through a period where things are not nice, but at the end of the day, you got to just put on your big old panties or your big boy panties if you want, and go and realize at the end of the day, it's not about you. It's about the kids. We had 2 kids at that stage, and the reality is it's about them now. So the world's changed, decision starts changing. So we struggled for a bit to get to grips with that, and we had the old way of kids going here, there, and then about 2.5 years ago we decided that it's not going to work like this. Let's try and co-parent together. So what we do is our children stays in one house, and between us and my ex-wife, we will live in that. We will all basically live in the same house at the end of the day. But what we'll have is she'll stay there a certain part of the week and I'll stay there a certain part of the week. And 1 or 2 days of the week, we sometimes just all stay there as a family. So, I mean, even though we're divorced doesn't mean we can't still be decent human beings and have a good conversation with each other. And our kids, at the end of the day, look at us and they go, wow, look, my mom and dad's divorced, but they're actually still good friends. So we just decided we'd give that a go. And it's been 2.5 years. So like any other relationship, it's got its ups and downs. But I just, from our side, we just decided, I mean, let's show our kids that parents can still be decent people, they can be decent towards each other. But for any dads listening that think this is an easy journey, it's not going to be an easy journey. And you just got to take it on the chin and say, well, that's it. It's now about my kids. I put my pride, I'm going to leave my pride at the doorstep, and we just got to go forward and make sure that the kids grow up in a good environment. Obviously, co-parenting like this is not for everybody. We've just been lucky. We've been able to make it work. Yeah,
I definitely think it will change for everyone. But I think that you guys realize that the children are the most important thing, and putting yourself behind them and showing them the good example is a great way to actually do it.
That's it.
How old were your kids when you and your ex-wife decided to divorce, and how did you guys break that news to them at that stage?
Yeah, so my boy the middle one was about 2.5 years old. So he didn't remember much. He actually doesn't even remember the times when he remembers a little bit of the last house we lived in, but he doesn't remember too much of that. I mean, the way things are now, that's just basically the way he sees life as it is. My daughter, she went through a really bad time at one stage. I mean, I mean, they all go through their stages. But that's when you're just going to have to communicate with your kids. My daughter went like a typical child. That she was 7 years old. Oh, is it my fault? Did I do something wrong? They don't understand that type of thing. It was because it's a big change for them in their life. So what happened is, I mean, we would just sit her down and talk to her. And if she's got issues, she came to us. We just ask the question. If there's anything that bothers you, come talk to us. If you don't get the answer from me, go to mom. If you want to speak to us both together, let's do it and get it done. And it's again, we just listen. And kids, when a child is about 7 years old, I mean, they're very susceptible to stuff that happens around them, and it's really important that you have that open communication. But again, it was something new for us as parents as well. I mean, we didn't really know how to handle this thing, except for the fact that we knew that we can't be married anymore. It ended up fine for us at the moment. It's still till this day. I think what did help is, our kids, especially our daughter, I mean, she now knows no matter what the situation is, she can just come to us and talk to us about it. Yeah. There's certain issues she'll bring to me and certain issues she'll take to her mom. And sometimes she'll want to speak to us both together, which is, I think, like all of us, we go through struggles in life, but it does make us stronger as we go along. I think the same happens with kids, but really it is us as parents. It's our responsibility to make sure that something that we decide as parents mustn't affect our kids negatively, not deliberately in any way.
Definitely. No, I definitely agree with you there. And on that point, obviously your boys were, as you mentioned, the one was 2.5. How old was the other one?
He wasn't born yet. So so the youngest one is not my son, not biologically my son, but he's basically my boy. Okay. So he wasn't born yet. Yeah.
All right. And you don't get weird questions from the one that was 2.5 years old at that stage, and asking you what is actually happening and how it works as he grows bigger and
not
more.
Really. Yeah. No. I mean, he's all right actually. I mean, he's actually a very cool kid. He's just got his way. So for him, it's not. I think our biggest issue at the moment is the youngest one we've got, because he's in a very difficult situation that his dad, unfortunately, he didn't stay long in the same house where he grew up. I mean, now he's got a relationship where he sees his dad every 2 weeks or so. So we had to sit him down, and now he's getting to the point where he's asking questions about 2.5, like, what's going on here? So we sort of explained to him, you're lucky you've got 2 dads, so you don't have to worry about it. And you visit this dad, you visit that one. But again, something new for us as parents. So it's our responsibility to make sure that the kids grow up and understanding that they love it. I mean, that's the thing. Mom loves you, dad loves you. If you've got 2 dads, they both love you. Just you don't have to worry about it.
That's very cool, actually, that you guys can do and approach it in this way. And just as a business owner, or as your own business owner, How do you manage and maintain a good work-life balance with your kids?
I think that's probably quite a tricky one, especially in our type of business, because with a laptop you can work anywhere. The problem with that is you end up working everywhere, which is a very bad thing. And so I mean, my kids a few times would tell me, "So please, will you just put your laptop down and spend some time with me?" So I went through a period. I mean, I always thought because we deal with clients in the US as well, you do work nights and things like that. But I went on a business development program, and we've got like a mastermind of people, and I made a commitment in front of these people that what I would do is I would block time in my calendar for my children, and that's it. Nothing happens, no technology. And it sounds, some people might say, "Oh, that's not the right way to do. You should spend just time with your kids, and that's it." But the reality is, if you run a business from home, you can get pulled into work very quickly. So what I do is, like I said, it's not always the easiest thing, especially when you run a business, but you have to make a commitment of what time you'll be spending with your family and what time you're going to be spending on your business. Because the reality is we don't leave the corporate world to go into entrepreneurship to spend less time with our family. That just doesn't make sense. Then you can just stay in the corporate world. The idea, because we want freedom of time and things like that, or at least be in control of our own time. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Freedom of time it just doesn't happen like that. You have to be in control of how you spend your time. So what I basically do is, I know in the mornings, because I work very late nights, I'll get up in the morning and I'll make sure that my kids are sorted out. We're in a good position where we can homeschool our kids, but we make sure that they're all sorted in the morning. And once they go to school in the morning, then I go to work, and I have my office separate from obviously where we live. Then I'll be home at lunch when they've got lunch, and we'll spend some more time, we'll talk nonsense. Some days they don't even want to speak to me because they're all busy on their own technology and things like that. But the reality is I'm there. And then in the evenings between 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the evening, it's no technology. Then it's time with me and my kids. I make sure they're bathed, they're ready to go to bed. We talk nonsense. We talk about what was cool of the day before they go to sleep. And maybe they'll want to watch a movie before they go to sleep. And then we'll just lie in bed until they fall asleep.
Okay, great. That's awesome to hear. As you mentioned now, your children are doing homeschooling. How did you guys come to that decision actually to homeschool your kids?
Yeah, I mean, because we live like there in the farm world on the way to Rustenburg, there's a little school there in the community where we live, and we weren't very happy with the schooling there. I mean, basically one day my daughter came home and she couldn't understand basic math, and it was like, this is ridiculous. How can you guys not? No, but the teacher doesn't understand how to teach it to us, was the answer to me. And I was like, no, this is absolute nonsense. And I spoke to my ex a bit about it, and I mean, obviously then you start making calculations, because homeschooling is not always the cheapest thing to do. But we looked at the positives, the negatives of it. And we were lucky enough that we found a very good tutor that could teach our kids, and we just made the decision. And I must admit, South Africa, I mean, there's a company called Impact. They actually have a very good infrastructure for parents that want to homeschool. They really help you through the whole process. We thought it was great, and it's now our 3rd year that we're doing it, and it's working really, really well for us.
Okay, great. And do you guys get to spend more time with your kids while they're doing the homeschooling, or was that part of your decision?
Definitely. Yeah, I think the additional time is probably, I think the decision for homeschooling was more that we could get them proper schooling. I mean, and when they fall behind with anything, we'll get them additional lessons or whatever it needs to be. But for me, the main thing was I wanted to, and maybe that's the entrepreneurship thing coming out of me a little bit too much. I wanted to have a little bit of control of what my kids learn. Yes, they go through the South African curriculum. There's nothing we can do about that. But I can teach my kids additional things where, and like I said, there's positives and negatives. The negative part of it is the sports side. Unfortunately, they can't do that much sport from home because it's just the 2 or just the 3 of them in school. But we at least can send them to clubs where they can do things. My daughter dances, they do karate. So we do keep them busy with other stuff.
Yeah.
But what the main reason was I wanted to make sure that my kids go through the curriculum properly, and in the basic type of subjects like maths and sciences and that, I really want them to. They don't have to be excel. I mean, my kids, we all love our kids. It doesn't matter how they do, but I want them to have a basic understanding, especially at these younger levels of math and science, because when you get to grade 10, 11, 12, if you don't have that basis at the bottom, then you just fall behind and then things fall apart. And of course, the other side of it, we can push additional curriculum in there, which is great. So my daughter is doing a YouTube course. She's learning how to do her own YouTube channel. my son's going to start additional coding next year because he's sort of interested in robotics and stuff. So in a normal school, I mean, in the school where they were, let's put it that way, we didn't have that opportunity. And then, of course, the other thing, you'll be surprised at how quickly, when you homeschool your kids, how quickly they actually can go through a curriculum. So there's a lot of additional time. So, and when they do have additional time, we'll just tell the tutor, well, just take them to a museum or take them to the zoo, let them learn more stuff, which is really, really cool. Or some days they will just, I don't know, want to sit and talk and read a book.
Yeah, I think the freedom of homeschooling is actually what appealed to parents. And as soon as you get past that first 2 months and the children are accepting it as well, it's generally beneficial for them. But how does the cost of homeschooling compare to government and private schools these days?
Well, interesting question. I mean, like I said, we're lucky enough to have this tutor and obviously when you employ a tutor, it's like having an employee, and you pay them. You want to pay them a proper salary because they're looking after your kids. But from the tutor's perspective, because she was a grade 2 teacher, and obviously she's a qualified tutor. She can teach up until I think grade 8 or so. But we openly asked her, I said, what are you earning at the school? So we would need to see if we can afford it, because she wanted to also get away from the government schooling also, because for her, it's easier to school 3 kids than it is to have 20 or 30 sitting in front of her. Obviously, I don't want to say driving her insane, but I mean, it just makes more sense. And it's also, she's busy studying as well, and she needed a little bit of extra free time. So from a cost perspective, you have to, I mean, some parents really, if you've got a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad, maybe they can do the tutoring part of it, because it's definitely possible, because all the material is given to you. So I'd say from a cost perspective, it's definitely more expensive than a normal government school. I don't know, they used to call it a Model C school. I don't know what they call it nowadays. It's definitely more expensive than that, but probably cheaper than private schooling. Because the nice thing is with homeschooling, you buy your materials for a year. So you've got everything for the year, and your major expense after that is just a person that taking someone through the curriculum, and if there's any additional stuff that needs to be done. But because I mean, our daughter, she probably still is. I don't know how that stuff works, but she was diagnosed as ADHD at school when she was in primary school, and they basically told us we can't put her into grade 1 unless we give her Ritalin. And we said, well, thank you, we'll take her out of school. And then we took her to a private school that specializes in kids like that, or they call it kids like that. And we just found out she was actually just bored at school. But the reality is that private school, for instance, cost us the same as what homeschooling for all 3 of our kids cost us now. So I would say it's definitely more expensive than your normal government or public schools, but probably cheaper than private schools, because private schools, especially up here, I mean, in Joburg, there's some really expensive private schools. But I think, I mean, it's difficult to say from a cost per month, I guess. Like I said, we've got 1 teacher looking after 3 kids. So for us, it's probably more cost effective than someone who will just have 1 child.
And is there any specific advice that you can give other parents out there that are looking to homeschool their children? Where to start off and where to begin that journey?
I would definitely say get in contact with Impact. I mean, really, and it's IMPAQ, because they're really good at taking you through the process. And what you would find also, Impact, they've got like 3 different models. So they've got the pure homeschooling model, where that's it, you homeschool. Then they've got another model where they've got impact centers all around. So it's homeschooling, but you don't have to school your kid at home. Your kid goes through the material, and then from there, they can go to this center and they get help through other things. So that's sort of a second model. And then they've got a third model where a lot of these tutors just open up their own schools. So I think if you get hold of them and then you ask them who else can you speak to? Because like, I know we're close to Rustenburg where we are. I think there's like 5 or 6 impact like training centers there. And it's a very small, it's like a town, and it's not even big. So they can give you a list of people you can go see, you go chat to them. But I think it's important. One thing that we found is the kids, if they feel, they don't have to go to school, they don't have to wake up early, I can sleep late. There's certain things, certain disciplines that you still have to sort of put in place at the end of the day. I mean, you are going to do the homeschooling thing. Kids, school starts at 8. Yes, you can sleep a bit later because you don't have to drive to school, but school starts at 8. You can have a break here, school finishes here, and homework needs to be done. So that's that sort of discipline. that us as parents have to sort of enforce down as well. But yeah, I would definitely say place to start, go to Impact, ask them questions, phone them, email them, or ask them if there's a center around you that you can go see. And there's definitely more than one type of organization that does this. That's just the one we work with.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Just back to spending time with our children. One of my main struggles actually when spending time with my daughter is staying present in the situation. As a small business owner myself, my head is busy the whole time with new ideas and projects and stuff like that. How do you make sure that when you are with your kids at night, that you actually have quality time with them and switching off and closing down your computer, as you said, but actually being in the situation and being present?
Yeah, that's for entrepreneur, that's always difficult. I think you can never switch your mind off. And then don't beat yourself up if you can't do that. But you can switch your phone off, or you can leave your phone somewhere where you don't see it, and you can close your laptop. And that's sort of the commitment that I made. And and honestly, some days I can't spend the whole 2 hours with them because I might have an emergency. But then I tell them, because I told them before that between 6 and 8 is your time. So if I take some time away from that, I tell them, listen, guys, unfortunately, I've got to do this tonight. So you're just gonna have to excuse me. So I think the main thing is, because our biggest problem is that little thing with the numbers on that phone, that smartphone. I mean, that it creeps in everywhere. I mean, it's notifications and it's bleep bleeps here and it's all sorts of things. I mean, my phone is basically permanently on silent. So if my phone's in my hand and it rings, I'll pick it up. If it's on silent, and if I don't see the phone ring, leave a message, I'll phone you back. And that's what my voicemail also says. But when it comes to tonight, I'll leave my phone, let's say, in the kitchen, because I spend time with my kids in the room, and my laptop is closed. And especially if you start doing it in the beginning, it's actually quite tough. Because you constantly think, oh shit, but what if I get an email? But nothing is going to happen in 2 hours. It's not like you're an emergency doctor and someone's going to need heart surgery, and if they're not there in two hours, someone's going to die. It's not like that. The business will still run. And if you are in a situation, if you do run a business where you really have to be on all the time, I think you have to ask yourself the question then, is that good for you? Because I look at my daughter that's 12 now. I mean, your daughter's still very, very young, but it goes like this. I promise you. You wake up one morning and you go, what on earth happened? And then probably it gets, I'm like my daughter, she doesn't want to see me 2 hours. And at night, I spend most of my time with my boys. And she'll come and she'll sit and chat with me, but she now reads a book, or but the reality is they at least see the effort is made, that the attention is there for them. Maybe they don't even want to talk, but they just want you to lie next to them in bed.
Just being there.
That's it. Let's make a cup of tea and talk a bit of nonsense. What happened during the day? I mean, it's one of the main things when we went through the divorce now. I mean, I was lucky enough to travel quite a bit, and I met a guy, and yes, his surname is Gupta. His name's Anil Gupta. He lives in the US. He's unfortunately, always when I tell the story, people go, "Oh, what are the Guptas?" But I mean, it's like Smith. It's a very general surname. But he taught me something that I did with my kids, and I think it really did help our children as well. Every night when I was there with my kids, just after the divorce, I would see them every Thursday, every Tuesday, and every second weekend. And when I'm there every Tuesday and Thursday, I would put them to bed. That would be my job. And we would lie down at night and we would just look at what was the coolest things that happened today. We used to call it the best of the day. And we would lie down, and each of them have to tell me at least one thing. What was the best of today? Even if it was just that nice cup of tea I just had before bed, or the nice warm bath we had, or the nice shower, or we had a great day at school because I drew a nice picture. And sort of just put them in a mindset of, oh, now we can relax. And now we sort of moved it over. I mean, my kids love listening to, they call it sleeping music. So we put relaxing music on and they fall asleep like that. So it's sort of a habit in our house. And I think that helps kids. So when you put them to bed at night, there's no technology around, put a little bit of music on, ask them, how did your day go? They answer you. That's all they need. And it can literally be an interaction of 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It doesn't even have to be 2 hours, but that's enough for them to say, oh yeah, Dad's here. If I ever need anything, he's here. I can chat to him, which is really cool.
No, I don't think that's very important. But something that you touched on now, we as adults that are so addicted to our phones, I think a lot of parents actually ask this question to themselves and do a lot of Google searches of how much screen time is too much for children. And I see a lot of blog posts and stuff popping up on Facebook these days regarding screen time for children. Do you have a set of rules in your house, and how do you, as an online marketer, someone that's on his phone and understands the digital landscape, how do you, obviously you don't want to take everything away from the children, because that's the way the technology is going and where everything is heading to. But how do you remain that balance and making sure that they understand that as well?
Yeah, so we have different rules for like obviously the very youngest one. The only technology he ever sees is if he maybe takes a phone and he does a few things on it, but he doesn't spend a lot of time on technology. He's still, I mean, luckily, because they're on the farmlands, they're outside in the sun and in the sandpit and that. But we've got different rules for our boy and our girl. Because she's a little bit older, she's allowed a little bit more, and I want her, like you say, I want them both to grow up, or all three of them to grow up in the digital world, because. Like we used to get bullies at school, they need to be able to handle themselves in the real life as well as online, because that's the way things are going. So we've got, I mean, both our kids have got iPhones, so you can switch your whatever screen time is allowed for them. Okay. So no phones allowed before 7 in the morning, or no screen time before 7 in the morning, and no screen time after 8 o'clock at night. So that's sort of the first setting we've got. And then the boy, he's got between 2 and 3 hours screen time a day, which is a lot. I mean, if the majority of the time he just plays games and anyway. And for our girl, she gets a bit more screen time. Okay. But if screen time's over, then you don't get any more. So, and obviously it's nice about this new technology also. I mean, we tried a whole lot of apps and like Net Nanny and that, but I'm sort of strange that way, I guess. I don't want my kids to think that, oh, I'm checking every single thing that they do. I want them to grow up thinking there's some accountability. If I do something that's wrong, there's going to be repercussions. And I want them to understand that. But I also want them to know that I am interested in their health as well. I don't want them to spend 20 hours a day on social media. And it's interesting when you see kids when they get to like 7 or 8 years old, and I think our daughter was about 10 or so when we allowed the WhatsApp app for the first time on her phone. And it's when we used to have the Blackberries. I don't know if maybe before your time. And in the Blackberry, it was the first phone that had that light. So you get a message, goes flip, and the whole world started doing this every time that light went on. Because it's a dopamine reaction in your brain. It's nothing. It just happens. So that it's even worse for kids, because their brain, obviously it's still young and it's seeing all these new things, and they get this dopamine injection all the time when they get that. So it's important for them to learn how to manage that. Especially around about the age of 9 or 10 or so. But yeah, so she's allowed a bit more. She's allowed some social media apps. And then that's where my ex is very good. And every now and again, she'll just say, can I just have your phone, please? And then the phone sort of gets checked if there's anything malicious on there or anything that's going wrong or anything that we feel is not right. And then she'll get a talking to. And it won't be like, oh, you did something wrong. It's like, this is the reason we don't want you to do this. And I mean, sometimes I go, are you crazy? You can't do this type of stuff. But most of the time, we'll sit them down and say, like, yes, we don't want you to do this, but this is the reason why. Because especially with our daughter being 12, next year she's 13, we all know teenage years. I mean, your hormones go crazy. So if we get to a position where all we do is scream and shout every time they do something wrong, they won't even come to you. So we try our best. We're not perfect, but no by no means. But we really try and get them to understand why we don't want them to be on the phone the whole time. Okay. Yes, I want you to know technology, but only so much time, and why you can do certain apps and why you can't do others. And if you're on any social media, I want to follow you because I want to see what you do. And if you do something cool on Snapchat, come show me, because I'll tell you, great job. If you upload a great video on YouTube, come show me. And then I'll tell you, great job, things like that. So I think it's like anything else. If your kid is good in sport, you want to tell, hey, you did great. You can't just always tell them, why did you drop the ball just before the try line, you stupid idiot? You can't do stuff like that. You say, next time, we'll do it better. Let's go outside and train the passes, train the catches. And I think it's the same as with sport, and as with like any social interaction also online. It's very, very important for them to learn those skills.
No, I think you can't take that away from your children, because at some stage in their life, they're definitely going to get exposed to it. And as a parent, you need to be in control and guide them to make the right decisions. So at the end of the day, 100%. We've got a very, very big role to play in that as well. And I think a lot of parents actually are a bit too strict on the stuff and are too scared, but they've got good reason to be as well, because there is cyber bullies and stuff going on. But it's something that you and your wife and guys need to work around, because it's not something that's going to go away. Definitely not.
Exactly.
And you need to manage that.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, great. To your kids, obviously now you're an entrepreneur. Do you include them in your business journey, and how do you make them a part of it? Is there some stuff that you want to learn or learning them through your own business journey?
Yeah, so obviously, again, the youngest one, he doesn't quite understand what I do. The middle one is starting to understand. So I try and explain to him what I do. He's not too interested. He's just at that stage now. The most important thing for him now is play with his friends and, and some games that they play. And I don't know what all these other games are. But he sort of told me that he'd like to see how, like, robotics and that's sort of his thing. So that's sort of a next step. And instead of bringing him into the business for now, or showing what I work to do in the business, I'll get him exposed to that. So next year when he's 8 and his reading skills are better and he'll start understanding logic and that better, then we'll start pushing him that way. From my daughter's perspective, she understands the business a lot more. She understands the advertising part of it. I've explained to her, I've showed her on social media where ads are, so she knows what's the difference with this stuff, doing this stuff, what's a good ad, what's a bad ad. And like I said, I've put her on a YouTube course now, so she's starting her own YouTube channel. So between her and her brothers, they do like this little sis was bro thing. And so she's got a very good understanding. And my agreement with her is that when she gets her video editing skills sorted, then I will outsource some of my work to her. And obviously I can't employ her, but there will be some remuneration or whatever it is. I mean, if she does a great job on the video and it makes us money in the business, he gets, I don't know, a new phone, or she gets a new book, or she loves reading all sorts of science fiction. So and that's quite cool. And the nice thing about her is, because I always, when I was working very long hours, just after our divorce, so I worked long hours, and at night, obviously I'd build a business at night. And I always used to tell her, don't worry, my darling, if I've got 10 clients, I can leave my corporate job and I can move down to the farm and I can live there by you guys. And she held me accountable to that. It's amazing. And she was like 7, 8, 9, around about there. Yeah. And she was saying, oh, how many clients have you got? Every second week when she comes to visit, how many clients have you got? How many clients have you got? And the day I said, I'm leaving Pick Up, she was obviously very happy. So she was really part of the journey, which is quite nice. And she enjoys, she just enjoys video editing. She loves this YouTubing stuff. And who knows what the future is going to be with this stuff. So yeah, and she's already done 1 or 2 videos for some of the ads that I've been running on like little apps and stuff, which is really cool. So she's got a real interest in it.
No, I think that's very nice as well. I think that's one of the nicest skills that you can learn your children is entrepreneurship. If they do it after school, it's really up to them. But just exposing them to a business and entrepreneurship is very important. And I think a lot of parents are not normally in that position because they're not entrepreneurs. But I think a lot of schools these days have entrepreneurship as a subject. But the one thing that I have a problem with that is the teacher is not normally an entrepreneur as well. So, but yeah, I think that's a discussion for other time. But in raising your kids, what's the hardest part for you?
Sure, that's a difficult question. I think seeing them grow up so fast, and that's because I've got this big spread now of like 3 and 8 and 12, and you start realizing that we actually only have that little bit of time with our children. And I think back in my life, and being an entrepreneur, I mean, if you worked for any business before you were an entrepreneur, I guarantee you were probably a hard worker. It's just the type of ethic that we all have. So you feel like I've got to do all this, and I've got to. But the reality is, one day, if I'm going down into the ground or whatever, no one's going to say, "Oh, there goes Nico, what a great worker," and he worked long hours, and his family supported him with that. It's not going to be like, it's like, was he a loving father? Was he? Did he spend enough time with his children? So did he say the right stuff to the children? So for me, that's a constant thing about, yes, I'm lucky enough now to spend a bit more time with my kids, but am I doing the right thing? Now, no one gave us a manual the day our kids were born and saying, this is what you do, and just tick it off and everything will be fine. So is it the right thing to teach our kids entrepreneurship? Is it the right thing to allow them on social media? Is it the right thing to homeschool them? We don't know. We make these decisions based on what we agree as parents, and we hope we're doing the best for our kids. So I think the biggest fear for me always is, am I making the right decision? Is it really going to be better for my child growing up the way they're growing up now? I mean, my daughter, like I said, she's old enough to have these discussions, and I just always tell her, listen, I mean, we all grow up going like, I don't want to do this. My dad did this. My mom did this, and I don't want to be like that. And then we grow up, and we've got certain things, and we take the good from our parents, and we try and better the bad from our parents as we grow up. So I tell my daughter, do the same thing. We're not going to do everything right. I'm not going to have the correct answers for everything. Mom might do something wrong every now and again, but learn from that through our mistakes. And when you grow up, then when you have kids one day, be a better person and be a better person for them. And then your kids are going to feel the same at the end of the day. And I think that is probably just our job as parents. I mean, this Anil guy, I mean, I had some real heart-to-hearts with him when I was going through my divorce, and it was heartbreaking to not be in the same house as my kids every night. When they're there far away, and I don't know what's going on, and being a control freak, you want to know what's going on. But and he just told me, he said, and he asked me this question actually. He said, what is, you think as a parent, what is your number one job? And I said, well, to spend time with my kids. Isn't that it? He said, no way. That is not your job. Your job is, as a parent, is to prepare your child for the future. That's all. So you just give them the skills to guide themselves through to the future. Then you've done your job as a parent. So not always be the nicest. You don't always have to catch them when they fall. Sometimes they need to fall and bump their knee and feel what it feels like. So next time they don't make the same mistakes. No. And I think that's the hardest part, seeing your kids fail probably, or seeing them make the mistake and allowing them to make the mistake and let them learn through experience. I find that that's a tough one for me.
Okay, cool. On that point, what does raising a well-balanced child mean to you? You said you had that conversation and guiding them into the future, but what does that mean for you, raising a well-balanced child?
Yeah, I mean, another good question. I think a well-balanced child for me is a child that, first of all, first of all, can have a good conversation with anybody. So social skills, and that's probably one of the negative sides of homeschooling. You don't have all that social skills running around, but I think social skills are very important. Because without social skills, it doesn't matter where you go in the world, where you're an entrepreneur or going into corporate world, you're going to have to be in some way, you're going to be in social circles all the time. So that's sort of the one thing. The other side of it is probably kids to be active. It's really, really important. I mean, I grew up I played rugby and I did all those type of things. When I was a typical rugby guy, I screwed up my knee, screwed up my back, did all sorts of things like that. And then I said, my kid will never play rugby. I mean, he's not the size to play rugby nowadays, because the boys nowadays are massive. No. But I make sure that children, at least they have to have some sort of physical activity. So they go to karate, or I mean, we're on the farm, so go outside with boys, you got to play outside. So and that's part of balance. So you've got that, like the schooling side of things. You've got the side of things where, I mean, in a social environment or in a home environment, to have some sort, respect, all those type of things that kids have to have. And it's not necessarily just towards parents, but just towards other people. And then the other side, I think activity is quite important. And maybe it's just because I was lucky enough to be in a family where we were always active. But I think it's important for kids to get those joints moving and get the muscles moving and things like that. Okay.
Cool. And what is one daily habit or practice you feel really contributes to your success of being a dad?
Yeah, and I guess, and it's quite a personal one, I'd say. I've got a little thing, and I've been doing it for probably about 4 years now. Just a little saying, and I used to write a diary on it every single day. But now I just do it when I go to bed at night. So I've got a little saying where I just tell myself, I'm so happy and grateful that. So, I mean, we go through the day, we're busy. I mean, your wheels are spinning, and you go at night when you go to bed, and a lot of people go, oh man, what a day. You know, I didn't even get half the stuff done that I wanted to do. And you go to bed with that mindset, and the next morning you wake up and you're just tired. And that's the type of thing that happens. I mean, some of us don't sleep much either. We've got our 4-5 hour nights of sleep, but you've got to make sure it's good quality sleep. And that's why I believe when I go to bed at night, I've got some breathing exercises that I do. I close my eyes and I'm saying, I'm so happy and grateful that, and most of the time, I'm so happy and grateful that I've got wonderful kids. I mean, they've got wonderful kids, and it's great to see them grow up being their own characters. They're not I mean, they're not the same people, and we've got to treat them like that. But I'm also so happy and grateful that maybe that day I'm just feeling very grateful that I had a nice warm shower before I went to bed. That I was able to sleep next to my kiddies and cuddle them. Not all parents are able to do that. Or maybe something else happened. But that's it. You've got 4 or 5 things that happen. I'm so happy and grateful that. And sometimes I put it a bit into the future. Yeah, it's a gratitude exercise. And sometimes I go into a little bit into the future. And I say, I'm so happy and grateful that, and I'm grateful for things that I want to happen in the future in my life. And yeah, and if you go to bed with that type of mindset, you wake up in the morning and you're refreshed. Yeah. And you feel, and it's like I make it sound like it's so easy now, but the reality is that it's something you just have to keep doing. And some days you're going to wake up feeling crap. It's just one of those things. But gratitude, I think, is probably one of the most important daily habits we have to have in our lives. And unfortunately, we don't get taught that. Sometimes we feel great, sometimes we bad. We don't. But it doesn't matter how crap life is, or what beat you down at work today, or something happened at home. If you go down and just think a little bit about it, you had a great meal before you went to bed, you're able to go to bed. Lovely. Yeah. You can wake up tomorrow morning, maybe have a nice cup of tea in the morning. There's so much for us to be grateful for. Yeah. And the fact that I can wake up and see my kids in the morning and in the afternoon and in the evening, there's a lot of parents that can't do that.
No, definitely. Definitely on you on the same page with that than you. Just another question on a personal side. How do you handle your personal setbacks and failures in front of your kids? Do you talk to them about it, or do you try and push it aside and rather go through it on your own?
Yeah, that's quite interesting. And I think it depends on the problem, or it depends on the issue that comes up. I'm a very private person. And just all my life, I struggled with things internally. So if I've got issues coming through, and my kids will immediately notice it. I mean, my daughter especially, goes, what's wrong? She'll ask. And when she asks that, I tell her. And then, but I also respect the fact that it's the type of thing that I go through by myself. Even my ex knows that when I'm quiet, I'm sitting one side. She'll ask what's wrong, but she'll leave me to go through it. But I'm lucky enough also to have some very good friends that I can speak to if there's, and it's important for us. I mean, for us as dads, it's like we spoke in the beginning, so we're so scared to ask people for help. But I'm really lucky enough to have some very close friends that I can sit with and just say, this is a big issue and I need some help with this. And you don't always feel comfortable maybe to speak to a spouse or to an ex or to your kids about it. But not talking about it sometimes becomes so bad that it is affecting their lives. And you've got to think about that as well. So there's definitely the balance to keep around that.
Okay, good. And how do you help your kids understand their failures and how to deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, interesting. I mean, again, I think it depends on the type of failure. And the older my kids are now, I actually let them fail to learn the lesson. Okay. And it's not a "I told you so" lesson, although sometimes I do go "I told you so." But it's usually, you try not to do it "I told you so." You try and then explain why you think this happened, and get them to agree. Because if your child agrees with you at the end of the day, they won't make the mistake again. But if you're going to go scream at them and say, "Oh, you shouldn't have done this, should have done it," they go, "Oh, screw you, I'll do what I want." And then next time they might just go make another mistake like that. So I think, again, from our side, we let them fail, especially the older. I mean, the older two, the youngest one, I mean, he still doesn't understand, I think, too well with that type of stuff. But we let them fail, and then we try and uplift them from there. I think that's quite important. And again, it's not always, there's no such thing as a perfect parent that will do it right every single time. But I think the question just has to be asked, what effect will your reaction have on your child? And if we all get hot under the collar, I mean, sometimes we forget about that and we just go off. But as long as you are aware of it and know that if you do it wrong this time, or if you feel you've acted incorrectly this time, do it better next time. And I've got one thing that I definitely do is sometimes, I mean, like anybody else, I'll lose my temper sometimes. I had a very busy day at work, a client's bothering me, and then one or two of the children will just go insane at night, and I might lose my temper. But very, very important for me is, if not that night or the next morning, I sit them down and say, listen, that was an exceptional circumstance, and this is the reason why it happened. So next time I tell you guys, I'm a little bit hot under the collar, please help me out here. Please just help me through it. And I think that's a learning curve for both sides of us, which is sometimes quite interesting.
Okay, very nice. And when you look back at how your parents raised you when you were a youngster, is there one thing that comes to thought that they did with you or disciplined you in such a way that you, when you were a child, actually said, I will never do that to my children?
Yeah, I think it's mainly probably getting a hiding because I was I had one of these real big dads. He played lock, not lock. What is it? He was what's stood in English? Anyway, yeah, he was loscop. He was like left front. I mean, he was a big, strong guy. My dad was a monster. So and I mean, a prop. There we go. And I mean, he grew up. I mean, his dad was the same. His dad was like one of those real old school burkies. And if he did something wrong, he would get a hiding up there. So that's all he knew. I mean, he didn't know much better. So we got lots of hidings when we grew up. And it got me to a point, and I mean, I can look back at my life and I say, well, I got a lot of hidings. Obviously, that's the way I was taught to do things. And I didn't want to do the same to my children. I wanted to try and teach them in a different way. So that's the one thing I sort of tried to not do as I grew up. Well, every now and again, sometimes you have to, I feel a nip on the butt is still a good reset, especially if they're a little bit younger. But when they get a bit older, they just, I feel that it doesn't have the same effect. So it's better to try and take another avenue, maybe take some privileges away. So no more phone for a week, you know, those type of things.
Yeah.
And we try and go that route rather. So I think that's probably the number one thing that I tried not to do.
Okay, correct. And would you say, and I think that's a hot topic with a lot of parents these days, spanking your kids and how to handle that. Because you get certain parents that still does spank their children. And then you get children or parents that if that happens in front of them, it's actually frowned upon. How do you deal with that with your kids? So you just basically, as you said, doing the chatting thing and making them understand?
Yeah. Now look, sometimes like my 12-year-old daughter is no use spanking her anymore, but she definitely got a few spankings in her life. But what I try and do, and I can understand both sides of this coin. I mean, really, some days I mean, I've seen some parents beating their kids, and you don't do stuff like that. That's my personal opinion. But every now and again, I found like a whack on the butt was something just to get the reset done, if I can call it that. But I think the main thing for me was to try and never, if there's a spanking, it's going to be done, to try and never do it because I am cross with someone or something. Because that's something. Because I've seen some parents when they deal out the beating to their child, it's almost shame that poor child that maybe that person had a bad day at work, but sort of taking it out on the child. So never ever lift your hand, I think, to a child when you're in that frame of mind of I'm cross and I want to get it out of me. I mean, because that really is a bad thing to do.
Okay, cool. And have you ever read any books on fatherhood or any other types of books that helped you on your journey becoming a better dad and being the dad that you want to be, that you can recommend to the audience?
Yeah, specifically from a book perspective, I mean, I'm an Audible type of guy, so I just listen to all my books. So I think that, I mean, honestly, the main thing that triggered for me in my life, obviously, it was just after my divorce, because it was just such a big thing that happened in my life. So I decided I need to do something. It's not just someone else's fault. There's definitely fault on both sides. So I've got to figure out what's going on my side. So, and that's where I met a lot of the people that still today will help me out. So I went to something called A-Fest, and and it was in Mexico. It was the first travel for me to like far away. And it's a company called Mind Valley that they give a lot of like personal development type of information out there. So it's not specifically a book, but the type of information that they gave out. And I just started following them. And like we're doing podcasts here now. And the owner of the company is called Vishen Lakiani. So he does monthly interviews like this with people. And then every month I would sit and I would listen and I would get their programs. I did some meditation stuff for them. So I think those were more the type of like that real personal development things was something that made me think, okay, well, there's definitely improvement I can make on my life. And it's not, so it wasn't a specific book, I would say, that I read, but mainly following these type of personal development type of programs, trying to make myself a better person. And then sort of indirectly, I feel it made me a better parent.
Okay, awesome. If you had a telephone that could phone Nico when he was 20 years old, what advice would you give him today?
Man, invest in property. To be honest with you, I think that's the type of advice. yeah, when you're like 20 years old, I mean, no one's advice means anything because you know everything, of course, because you're 20 now and you're 21. I mean, you've got the world of knowledge under your 21 years. So I think if I could find myself, I said, listen, bite the bullet with whatever you do and invest in property. And whether it's local property or international property, as soon as possible, just get yourself into property. And I think the other thing, I probably, if I know now, or if I knew then what I know now, I would have probably not moved into the first house that I ever bought. I would have bought the house and rented it out immediately and then stayed at home with my mom for an extra few years. I mean, my dad passed away during that time, so I could have stayed with her for an extra few years, lived comfortably, and then maybe bought 1 or 2 properties that way around. I mean, maybe it's like a Robert Kiyosaki type of way of like reach that type of thing. But it does make sense now. Because I think when we get to that age, because I just finished studying and I walked into quite a nice job, and started earning what was to me quite a nice salary, and then you want to buy a new car and you buy a house and you want to buy a bike. And after a while, you realize that, I mean, all that stuff actually means nothing. But unfortunately, in my case, I only realized that when I was like 40 odd years old. But I think that's the number one advice I would give. Just invest in property.
Okay, great. And then one of the last questions: if your children look back at you when you're not there one day, how would you like to be remembered in their eyes?
I would like I like them to see me as a constant in their life, like someone that they could always go to, no matter what the issue is. And they know they might get in trouble, but the first thing that will happen is I will help them, and then afterwards we can sort out the issue. I think that for me is really, really important. Just someone to be a rock there. I mean, that's it, whenever they need.
Okay, great. And then looking to the future, what excites you, and what's next for you guys?
Yeah, for the next couple of years, obviously, is building the business. I think the next probably 3 to 5 years, it's just head down building the business. We'd like to. We really try to spend a lot of time educating the entrepreneurs in South Africa, get them to use the type of tools we've got to grow their businesses. It's been a bit of a struggle, I must admit, because I think it's just not, social media is still seen as someone playing on Facebook. It's not really seen as a marketing tool yet. So there's a lot of time and effort being put in that to educate people. But I think between the next 3 to 5 years, we're gonna concentrate our efforts more on. We'll obviously still educate in South Africa, but concentrate our efforts more in the US, in the US, UK, that Canada, that area, and down Australia, and build our business that way. And maybe the next 3 to 5 years, maybe even exit. And if we don't exit the business, maybe actually merge the business into something else. Because the world's changing. I mean, what we see as social media marketing or overall marketing today is going to be completely different in 5 years. So I don't really know where we're going. I still love what I do. So I think as long as I love what I do, I'll be involved in the business. When I start seeing that this is not something for me anymore, then maybe it's time to exit the business, and we'll go some other route.
Okay, great. But all the best with that. Thanks, Nico, for sharing your experience. I think I definitely got some pointers that I will definitely apply to my own relationship with my kids. And I think you've got a very mature way that you are dealing with your kids, and I think it's a very nice way as well. So thank you so much for sharing your experience and your thoughts, and all the best for you, and then we'll make contact soon again.
Great stuff. Okay, right now.
Thanks, Nico.
Have a great day.
Okay, cheers.